Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Four Quarter Talk podcast with myself, Jack Brazil, and my co-host, as always, Josh Brazoke. Say what's up?
Yo, what's up? Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. First of all, we've got a few trades to discuss. Obviously, in the NBA world, it's been a bit quiet on the trade front recently. But yesterday, actually, we had a trade go through involving the Detroit Pistons and the New York Knicks, two struggling franchises in the Eastern Conference as of recent. And the trade was sending Derrick Rose back to New York for a second stint as a Knick. And the Detroit Pistons in return receiving Dennis Smith Jr. and a second-round pick. Now, a lot of eyebrows have been raised about this trade. Obviously, it's not a blockbuster one like the James Harden trade was. Not too much to unpack here. But it's an interesting trade on both sides, I think. For the Detroit Pistons, they get a young point guard who's you could say his NBA career so far has been underwhelming, to say the least. In his rookie season, he averaged 15 points and looked like he was going to have a very bright future in this league. But ever since then, has really struggled for minutes. He was obviously the centerpiece of that trade, the Kristaps Porzingis trade that sent Kristaps to the Mavericks. And his time in New York has been rough, to say the least. And then on the flip side, the Knicks get Derrick Rose, obviously past his best, but still a contributing factor in the league, averaging 14 points in 22 minutes this season. It's a weird trade for me from the Knicks side because Emmanuel Quickley has looked great for the New York Knicks. So does this take minutes away from Quickley, Josh?
Yeah, when I look at this trade from the Knicks perspective, I can see where it makes sense and where it doesn't. And yeah, when we're talking about Emmanuel Quickley or RJ Barrett or even Elfrid Payton, those are kind of players, maybe not Elfrid Payton, but the other two are players that you're kind of looking at to have minutes handling the ball, and taking away minutes from them or touches from them doesn't make the most sense, especially how Emmanuel Quickley is progressing. I did not mean to do that, but
it's natural with you, bro. It's natural.
But I do see where it makes sense. In that Tibbs likes to bring parts of his that Chicago Bulls culture with him wherever he goes. He has Taj Gibson and now Derrick Rose, and they've pretty much been a part. I think now Derrick Rose has been part of every Thibodeau coach team. So obviously he wants to bring that culture with.
That he likes. He knows his guys that he likes and trusts.
And to be fair, his culture change has had a lot to do with how well the Knicks have played right now. I think they're in the playoff race, and this definitely. Yeah, but they've still. I think where are they positioned right now? They're still like 6th seed or something.
They are in the 8th seed right now, 11 and 14.
Yeah.
4 and 6 in the last 10. So, media.
Yeah, I expect them. Yeah, I don't expect them to have a secure playoff spot. I expect them to be in play-in tournament range.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the East right now, you've got the Raptors at 9 and then the Heat at 12. So those are two teams you would expect to knock the Knicks out of the 8th seed. But as you said, that playing range.
Yeah, that 7 to 10 range, and that is that's a far cry from them being bottom league type of team, and a lot of that is to do with their culture because obviously how well Emmanuel Quickley has been playing has been great, but it's not that different of a roster apart from the fact that Tom Thibodeau has brought a culture where the players care, and that's a big part, as you've seen, of a lot of teams so far making deals. The Suns made a deal for Chris Paul despite his contract because they knew that what he brought was he brought a lot of intangible things to the process. So in that way it works.
But is that worthwhile for the Knicks? Being in that playing range. As we described it last week, it's kind of a limbo where your draft pick isn't going to be as valuable.
I think teams are quickly learning that, especially with the new draft format, where being a bottom 3 team doesn't secure anything really, because you've seen the Pelicans get the first pick, who were just out of the playoffs a couple of years ago, and you've seen teams continue to get first picks without being bottom feeders, and especially the Knicks, who seem to not ever get a first pick despite always having the worst record. So I think teams are valuing the fact that a lot of these rebuilding teams didn't tank as much as you'd think that tanking makes sense. But a lot of these teams that are, getting players outside the lottery or in the second round, and culture has been a much more important thing in terms of developing teams.
Yeah, I think this is a trade where I look at it from both sides, and I'm not sure if I see a winner on either side really. Dennis Smith Jr. is a prospect, but the last few years would suggest that he might not work out to be what we thought he was. He was requesting to play in the G League just to get some minutes in his legs. So that tells you everything you need to know. And it's a Knicks roster that point guard is one of their most lacking positions. And he couldn't even get a minute on the court. So that maybe tells you a lot. Also, a second round pick for Derrick Rose. Maybe the GM of the Pistons could have tried to squeeze a first round pick out of that.
Nah, I think what was going on there was the Pistons were probably in a position where they were going to end up releasing Derrick Rose into the buyout type of situation. And because I think Derrick Rose is on an expiring contract. So rather than, they might as well just get the bare minimum out of it rather than just giving him up for nothing.
Okay.
But it does make me look at it and think that, teams like the Clippers could have pretty much got him for free.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Derrick Rose was saying on his Instagram that you don't turn down the chance to be a Knick. But at the stage he's at in his career, I feel like maybe, I would love to see Derrick Rose on a contender right now. So he can get close to winning a ring, because I feel like that would cement his position in the Hall of Fame. Because right now his case looks a bit dubious, a bit thin, which would be a real shame if he missed out on that. But also,
clearly he loves New York. He's second time.
Yeah, and he's got a coach that now he knows trusts him. I think it's clear to see that Derrick Rose will probably see a lot of minutes on the floor with this Knicks team. I'm not sure how Knicks fans feel about that, as we said with Quickly and Peyton. You have been really solid for them this year. But also, I think an underrated aspect from this trade, and tell me if you agree with this or not. But I was thinking about this, and New York is a big time market, and Derrick Rose, although he's washed quotation marks, he can still contribute, but he's not the player he once was. He's still a massive name. You saw that in the
I see where you're going with this.
You saw that with the NBA voting figures. He's in the top 10 for guards, even though he's not having an all-star caliber season. So the owner of the Knicks, knowing how big a market New York is, and knowing what a big name Derrick Rose is, this seems like marketing heaven for him. Having Derrick Rose back in the Garden, that just screams to me jersey sales.
Yeah, I see that. But I do want to give the Knicks credit. I think a lot of the moves they've made after missing out on, being able to draft Zion and being able to sign KD and Kyrie, I think they looked at themselves in the mirror and thought that rather than just relying on, being New York or being the Knicks, we actually need to develop a culture and a brand internally where, we can actually sign these free agents, because clearly New York isn't enough. They've had the last big free agent they were able to get was Amari Stoudemire.
Yeah.
And then before that, nothing really there. So they haven't been able to get that A-list despite being like the perfect market.
Yeah, but Derrick Rose isn't that either. He's nowhere near that.
No, I'm saying this is a step towards giving them, because Derrick Rose isn't the first person they went after. They were in talks of trying to acquire Westbrook and trying to acquire Chris Paul. So they're clearly a push towards wanting to make the Knicks to make the Knicks more of a destination for these future free agents, rather than just expecting them to, tank and then just expecting superstars to sign just because it's New York.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly happy for Derrick Rose that he gets to be. It's clear to see that he's a big fan of that New York environment. So it's good to see him in an environment he can thrive in and enjoy. And he's going to get more minutes on the floor. So that's obviously a big plus for me, because Derrick Rose was the first basketball player I really followed and was a fan of. So it's good to see that. Hopefully he can finish his career strong.
Better than Detroit, at least.
Yeah. That just seemed like a situation similar with Blake Griffin. It's two former All-Stars that kind of wasting the back ends of their career in a struggling franchise. So it's good to get him out there.
Derrick Rose is a free agent this summer, so he's not stuck there forever.
Exactly. And yeah, hopefully he can possibly sign for a contender in the summer. That'd be great to see. Let's talk about it's not a trade yet, but rumors have been flying about one of the Ball brothers, Lonzo, who's actually had a little resurgence there in New Orleans the past week. But one of his supposed trade destinations, if the rumors are to be believed that the Pelicans are shopping him about, apparently his most likely trade destination is the Chicago Bulls. Now, as a Bulls fan, I have mixed emotions about this proposed trade. I think Lonzo Ball is a very solid NBA player and has future to get even better. He's still young. We have to remember that. And he would definitely bring us something different on the defensive end of the ball. The Bulls are one of the worst defensive teams in the league, and with a backcourt of Kobe White and Zach LaVine, I think anybody could score on that backcourt. So Lonzo Ball would help shore up the defensive side of the ball, no doubt. He's a very good defender. But on the offensive end, I'm not so sure about this trade. The Bulls are a team that like to shoot a lot of threes and a lot of mid-ranges, and having a point guard in that system that can't really do that consistently, I think would damage us in that regard. Kobe White is not the best shooter in the world, but he can knock that down when he's feeling comfortable. Obviously, Lonzo Ball will bring playmaking qualities, but I think Kobe White is developing that side of his game as well. And we have to remember, Kobe White is only in year 2. I know he's been, kind of criticized, I think unfairly. People love to say that the point guard is the hardest position to adapt to in the NBA, and Kobe White, I think, is finding that out now. And it's only year 2, so I've got full faith that he'll come out with this tough run, become a really quality NBA player. But I would, if the trade involves someone like Kobe White going to the Pelicans, I would not be a fan of it at all. But if it was a little less value, I'd say bring him in. What do you think of this, Josh?
I disagree. Looking at Lonzo, I mean, you spoke about the shooting, but actually they shoot around the same amount of attempts, with Lonzo shooting a higher percentage from 3. I think Lonzo's a good shooter. I think from what I've seen from New Orleans Pelicans fans is that Lonzo is just not in a great position right now. Originally, it was more tailored towards, his playmaking and things like that. But now with the resurgence of Brandon Ingram's playmaking and signing Eric Bledsoe, they've kind of gone away and put Lonzo in a more of a 2-guard type situation. And that's meant that a lot of Lonzo's pretty much just turned into like JJ Redick, and he's not that level of 3-point shooter. But I think he's good enough to not, hurt your team. I think he's an average at least, or maybe even above average shooter over the last year or so, because he did put in work to improve his 3-point shooting. But I think it just fits. It's more of a seamless fit with a player like Zach LaVine. He can add to their fast-paced offense and things like that, because he's a great playmaker. Obviously, you spoke about the defense as well, and I just don't think. I think it will give him a chance, a chance for once to actually be, the undisputed playmaker of a team, and I think he can thrive in that type of role.
Yeah, I would be for this trade, as I said, if we're not giving up too much. But I just do want us to be careful with what we would offer for Lonzo Ball.
Would you offer Lauri Markkanen?
Hell no. No.
Okay, hear me out. I'm not. This isn't in a vacuum, because obviously I don't think they're like the same. I think Lauri's shown that he has a quite high ceiling, but it doesn't seem that there have been rumors about the Bulls not wanting to offer him the amount of money that he wants, and him going into restricted free agency.
But I think that was down to, like, Lauri came off a down year last year. His numbers were down, and so the Bulls were quite rightly saying, "Okay, show us what you can do this year." And this year he's having a career year. Obviously, just went down with that shoulder injury, so hopefully he comes back as good as he's been. But Lauri Markkanen, he's more aggressive this season. Of quite clearly playing for a contract. But he's averaging 19 points and 6 rebounds this year, which is career numbers, as I said. I feel like we'd be silly to trade that away for Lonzo Ball when we already have a bright player in that point guard position. So I feel like that would be a silly trade.
Fair enough. It just depends on how seamless you think that fit is with Zach and Kobe. Basically, it kind of goes down to that, really.
And also, Lonzo Ball is in the final year of his contract as well. So
but he's not. I don't think he qualifies for a max anyway at this point.
No, but I'm just saying there's no guarantees he will be with us next year, even if he does come. So
I'm just saying it's easier because obviously it's restrictive free agency for both of them. But I mean, you can match any offer. Yeah. But I'm just saying Laurie is more likely to get a higher offer from another team.
Yeah, but we'll see what happens with that. But I don't know. I don't feel like we have the pieces to offer. Something that would be worthwhile for both parties in terms of trade value. But to be fair, we have really missed that defensive presence from the guard spot since Chris Dunn left. So that would fill that role. As I said, I'm 50-50 on that trade. I wouldn't be mad if he came, and I wouldn't be upset if he didn't come. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see as the details come in.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I probably wouldn't be too happy if we offered a bunch of draft picks either, because I don't feel like that would be a good.
I don't think its value is that losing.
Exactly. Right. Let's move away from trade talk quickly, and we're going to talk about a bit of a nightmarish week for the NBA and Adam Silver. There was all these discussions about should the All-Star game be played this year, and with the season starting later in the year on the 22nd of December, the original plans were not to host the All-Star game. But then, as the season progressed and, more COVID protocol rules put in place, Adam Silver must have thought, it's now a safe environment to have this game. And obviously, that's not the only reason. There's money to be made, and money makes the world go round, as we all know. So that's probably the main reason. But it now looks like the All-Star game will, in fact, go ahead. And this has not been taken lightly by stars of the game. Most notably, the biggest star of them all, LeBron James, who was very critical of this game taking place, saying he has zero energy and zero excitement about the All-Star game this year. He goes on to say, I don't even understand why we're having the All-Star game. It's pretty much kind of a slap in the face. And he wasn't the only star. Giannis agreed with him. Kawhi said it's just for the money. De'Aaron Fox said it's stupid. James Harden was saying how the players need a break, which is very understandable because that time was originally going to be used for just a week off for the players who have, since they came back, has been a hectic schedule. What do you think of the All-Star game going ahead, Josh? Do you think it's a wise move from the NBA, or do you think it's just a money-grabbing scheme?
It doesn't make sense. So obviously, like holding a season of professional sports in the midst of a pandemic is a difficult task. And when they originally came back, for the Orlando bubble in the first place, there was criticism, but at the end of the day, it was just too much money that would be lost, billions, so much money that it would dramatically, change the contract salaries of several players. It would affect, even the lower level staff members and things like that, and maybe even trigger a change of the whole CBA with TV companies pulling out of their contracts. So that was one thing, but this is not necessary at all. No. You can get extra money from it, but like if there's no All-Star game, which they already planned originally, that's not hurting pockets. And it's so hypocritical. A lot of the things that are happening right now, we'll talk about the KD situation, but they just don't make sense. You have, obviously from the very start, 6 feet apart on the bench and, masks on the bench, but we're playing with each other, being physical, sweating on each other.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
48 minutes. Now you can't exchange jerseys and all of that. And then you're having protocols for inconclusive tests. You're having protocols for, you know, Kate. Well, we'll talk about the KD thing, but to have all that precaution and then say, okay, we're gonna take you to, we're gonna take the whole league, or well, all of the All-Stars to one place that's open. They're probably gonna allow fans because they're going to an open place on purpose. Like it doesn't make sense, and a lot of players are saying, this isn't. There's no help. There's no medical reason to do this. There's no financial reason to have to do this. So yeah, it just doesn't make sense on all fronts.
And also because they're taking the All-Stars to Atlanta, can you trust them all to behave? Atlanta's open, as you said. I'm sure some players are going to want to go out and enjoy themselves, spend a bit of their money.
Yeah, if you're going to make these players go out to play a game that doesn't even matter to their season,
exactly.
Like, yeah, they're grown men.
Yeah, it's quite clearly a cash grab from the NBA, and it, as you said, does kind of go against all these measurements they're putting in place and how safe they're trying to be on paper. But then as soon as a cash grab opportunity comes up, that kind of goes out the window. I'm sure they'll still have those protocols in place, but it's kind of putting a mask, pardon the pun, on what is just a stupid idea from all sides.
Ask all these players, all of the staff members to dedicate 3 months to the bubble and then 72 games of restricted access to family members, and you've asked them to put this commitment because you've told them like you need to do this or you're gonna have to forfeit some of your salary, to then completely violate a lot of your own rules and expect you can't have rules for you. But I mean, if you have a Harden per se have to quarantine after he went to the clubs or whatever, but what's to say that's that much different from allowing fans? Because even in these arenas that are open, well, Atlanta in particular, with that LeBron situation with the courtside Karen, she was shouting at him with her mask off.
Yeah.
So you've got the NBA allowing, I don't even understand why the fans courtside anyway, and you're allowing that and you're putting your athletes in danger. So yeah, it's hard.
It kind of dehumanizes them in a way. That's how I see it. It's like it paints them as pawns of a money making scheme. The players, it's quite clear that your number one concern for these players isn't their health; it's how much money they can make you, and that's the only reason you're having this All-Star game. That's the only reason you're having fans courtside, which boggled my mind. You're having
it's a complete contradiction of these rules that they basically, inside those 4 lines, inside that 94 feet, like nothing matters. And then as soon as they leave that, oh yeah, you have to be 6 feet apart, you have to have a mask on here and there, all of that. So, how angry can you even get at James Harden? Obviously, what he did was, irresponsible. But why is that so much different from all the other access he's having to all these other people?
I do think it's quite funny though. Like a lot of analysts and stuff have share our opinion, but everyone's still going to watch it. Everyone's still inside excited that this game is going to go ahead and it's going to get millions of views. So that is that is quite funny. I'm actually looking forward to it, but I still don't think it should be going ahead. I'm definitely going to tune in, but in the back of my mind, I'll be like, why are we doing this?
It doesn't make sense, but I'm not going to hold a boycott.
Yeah, yeah. No one's holding a boycott. Trust me. And they're still having the 3-point contest and the dunk contest, but they'll have it on the night of the game. So that's even more players that you got to fill into that arena and fill into hotels.
I mean, I know this is a basketball podcast, but I was watching a Super Bowl yesterday and supposedly limited capacity, but it looked like the arena looks as full as I've ever seen it. So
yeah, I was watching. I didn't watch the game because I don't give a damn about American football. But I was watching the weekend's halftime performance on YouTube, and I was looking in the crowds. I was thinking, oh, surely these are fake people. Like, surely, I know America's not the brightest country, but surely these are fake people. But no, that was real people. I do just want to say, I know this isn't basketball related, but that performance, that was insane, man.
Yeah,
that was he killed it. He killed it.
He did.
But let's move on to the other incident that has painted the NBA in a bad light, and it's something you alluded to just there. KD protocol riffraff situation. If you don't know what we're talking about, Kevin Durant, minutes before the game, he was expected to play, but then he was chalked off as unavailable because he had reportedly come into contact with someone who had returned an inconclusive COVID-19 test. So the NBA thought, okay, we'll take all precautions necessary and make sure Kevin Durant can't play tonight. But then they thought that money-making mindset of Adam Silver thought, hold on, if Kevin Durant doesn't play, one of the biggest stars on the hottest team right now to watch, the Nets.
KD's not playing. Oh, I'm
how many people are actually going to watch this? So then he reversed his decision and said, okay, KD, you can play tonight. You know, you've had a negative COVID test.
Midway through the first quarter as well.
You clearly don't have the virus. Go out and play. So he plays about a quarter and a half, does his Kevin Durant thing. Then Adam Silver makes another phone call and says, actually, sorry, Kevin, the guy you were with returned a positive COVID test. Take your jersey off. You're going back to the locker room, and you got to stay there for the rest of the game. So then Kevin Durant is clearly exasperated by that. He's thinking, well, you told me one thing, and now I'm doing something else. Like, make your mind up. He's tweeting on his account, free me. He's out in the NBA. The NBA is having to release statements. It was classic Kevin Durant. It was a classic Kevin Durant Twitter clinic. But then it just kind of goes against, you know, the COVID-19 protocols and how serious the league is being. You know, they set the precedent in the summer with the bubble and how safe it was. It was a massive success. But now these COVID-19 protocols are shrouded in confusion and mystery, it seems. Do different rules apply for the superstars of the league? We were saying on an earlier podcast, if all these COVID protocols and players missing games because of it were happening to someone like the Lakers, would the league make exceptions? And it's clear to see that they would, because they did it with Kevin Durant, but then they went back on their decision. It was a whole weird situation. No one was a winner from it. How did you react to this, Josh?
It was a joke, man. It's exactly what I've been saying. What I'm saying with the All-Star situation. The tweet that KD was replying to when he out of the NBA was one where they said, "Can everyone stop saying things like out of an abundance of caution? We're just saying words that don't match actions for PR." So, I mean, it doesn't make sense. Like, if you're using an abundance of caution, then don't play him, period.
Yeah,
which makes sense, you know. And I'm sure they accepted that when they first heard that pre-game. You know, there was no complaints there. You know, they're thinking, you know, the NBA is trying to, you know, do this for the safety of all the players and all the people involved. I mean, you had Harden. I saw his post-game interview where he said that, you know, we first heard the news and we thought, okay, all right, let's prepare for this game without KD, you know, because they were in the huddle when they heard the news, you know, in a pre-game huddle. And then afterwards, you know, they're like, okay, we got to adapt, we got to adjust. Okay, let's go. Then they hear KD's back and they're like, oh, that's great. Okay, let's get him in. Let's get him involved. And then he's gone. So it's just, there was nothing to gain from that. You know, it's just like, it's these financially motivated decisions that are being made, but then being coated in, you know, abundance of caution or,
yeah, because if that was Landry Shamet, for example, he's out. There's no chance he's touching the floor.
Might not even touch the floor for a week.
Exactly, but because it's Kevin Durant, they're making exceptions, but then they're going back on the exceptions and making themselves look even worse. And it's led to, in a space of a week, two of the biggest stars in the NBA, arguably the two biggest, directly calling out the league and calling out Adam Silver. It's a mess. It's a mess. Adam Silver's had a terrible week in terms of his rep and his PR, because before this week, there was kind of his scandals were kind of few and far between.
Adam Silver was looking like, there were calls for him to run the country. How the bubble was going. We were like, all right, we need him over here in UK, like running in our protocols, because the bubble was like a success. But yeah,
it's funny old time for Adam Silver. I'm sure he'll definitely bounce back from this, but this is not the best look for Adam Silver. Let's move away from all that drama though, and talk about the Dallas Mavericks real quick. The Dallas Mavericks are a team everyone expected to have a phenomenal season this year. They've got the next big thing in Luka Doncic, who's having an MVP level season. But the Mavericks just can't get wins together at all. Saying that, they did defeat the Golden State Warriors in that 2-game back-to-back series last night, despite Stephen Curry's 57, which is crazy. Luka had his career high 42. But the previous game against the Warriors the night before, they capitulated. I was watching this one. I'm not sure if you were too, Josh. It was a very high-scoring first half. It was neck and neck. I think it was about 78-80 going into the half, so a very high-scoring affair. And then in the second half, the Dallas Mavericks just wilted away and melted. They were missing open shots, missing easy looks at the rim, weren't playing defense. They looked awful. And this has been the tail of the tape for the Dallas Mavericks this season. They can't get any type of runs together. They're the worst 3-point shooting team in the league, which a year ago we were talking about how they're the best offense in NBA history, and now they can't hit a three. Worrying signs for the Dallas Mavericks. Where do you think they go from here, and how can they improve on this 10-14 start?
Yeah, so going into that last win with the Warriors, they were 8-13, and they lost 6 straight games, and had the 20th ranked offense, which is a far cry from last year, because last year they had the best offense of all time, and this year they barely cracked the top 20, so it's not looking great. Luka is currently actually shooting worse than both Giannis and Westbrook.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he shoot 29% to Westbrook's 33. So
I'm guessing that's on a much higher volume though.
Like 3 more attempts.
Okay, maybe not. Because every time I watch Dallas, like Luka's always firing from, like Luka takes like Lillard type threes.
The thing with Luka is the comparison I've always had of him is Harden. They have very similar offensive games in terms of trying to draw contact, step back threes and things. But the difference between them is they both obviously taking difficult shots. I think you have to apply context to percentages. So obviously a player like, I don't even want to say Clay. Let's say Joe Harris would shoot a better percentage than Harden. Can shoot a better percentage than Harden because he's taking more spot up threes as opposed to step back threes from 40 feet out. But the thing with Luka is he's not good enough of a shooter to do that. I think Luka is definitely, he's probably closer to a 36%. He's probably close to like a LeBron or maybe a bit better from 3 on a normal, just in terms of ability. But he's taking.
Oh, this LeBron's shooting the lights out this year.
LeBron's a 40% shooter, so yeah. But so he takes these difficult shots, and then I think the offense just depends too heavily on him in similar ways to Houston did with Harden. And when they made that trade, when they opted to trade Seth Curry for Josh Richardson, it looked like a win-win situation for both sides because they thought that they had enough shooting, and Josh Richardson could provide more defense. And still apply a little bit of shooting, but now it's not looking great. And then also underrated part of it is that Coach Silas, who is now with the Rockets, was kind of behind that offensive system that they had that was working so well. And since his absence, their offense is kind of like falling apart.
And the Rockets are directly benefiting from that. They're having quite a good year, all things considered. So big loss there.
Yeah, and then obviously, Kristaps Porzingis coming off the injury doesn't help either. But
yeah, he's been very inconsistent. Some nights he'll look back to his best, and then he'll have a few games where he's, you put it very well in the group chat the other day. He needs to play like he's 7'3". He loves to shoot like a 30-footer. when he should really be in the post way more, drawing double teams. Making advantage of his size, but he doesn't really seem to do that as much as he should.
Yeah.
I think that's the next stage to unlocking his full potential.
It's like a Joel Embiid, he's having one of the best shooting seasons of his career, obviously best overall season of his career, but he doesn't settle, which is something that he improved on, is that, I think every time Porzingis takes a three, the defense sighs and relief, they're like, okay, we'd rather that. We'd rather the 7'3" guy didn't, exploit our interior. So
it was like when I was watching the those two Warriors games, the tallest player on the Warriors, Kevin Looney, went down with an injury. The tallest player on the Warriors was Draymond Green at 6'7", or maybe Kelly Oubre. Is Kelly Oubre 6'8"? Anyway, it was 6'7" or 6'8". And Kristaps was still shooting limitless range threes instead of exploiting, on the inside, which he should have really done. But
I hope it's not a psychological thing to do with the injury.
Yeah,
that would be an issue if he's scared of going inside now because of that. That would be an issue.
That would be an issue, yeah, because he has a very rare build in this league. 7'3". Not many players are 7'3", and can shoot the ball like he can. So on paper, he should be one of the most dominant bigs in the league because he's got all the skill in the world to put those pieces together. But he just needs to. Maybe it is a psychological barrier, as you said, but he's got to listen to his own body, see what he's comfortable with. Obviously, he has had some pretty severe injuries in the past 2 or 3 seasons, but yeah, the Mavericks just need to they've got a long-standing coach and front office, so I'm sure they know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's funny. I saw a list of like the betting odds for coaches that would be fired. And on that list was Rick Carlisle and Eric Spoelstra. Like, come on.
No way.
They're never getting rid of any of them. I'm sorry. They'll have to retire to.
They're part of the furniture at those 2 franchises, so that's never going to happen. But what do you think the Mavs can improve on? Do you think they have to make some trades? What do you think it is?
Nah, I think if Luka just continue, they just need to relieve like Luka of it. Well, in the long term, they need to add more playmaking so that Luka doesn't have to create the whole offense and they don't heavily rely on him for everything. And obviously, Porzingis needs to get back. I think as he gets more healthy, though, he'll get back to the form that he was in the playoffs. So I don't worry about them too much because I think they're talented. They'll make it work. Going into last season, Porzingis was off injury again, and he was struggling quite a lot. And there were calls about will they fit as a duo because there were certain lineups where in fact I think their best start that season, their best lineup was without Porzingis and with Maxi Kleber instead. So it was strange for a while. It was kind of like they fit better in lineups that didn't include each other.
Yeah.
But they started to work it out towards the end of the season. And of course they lost Coach Silas, but I think, they know the blueprint of what to do. I think their shooting, that's definitely an issue. But I think there's some teams that are just shooting out their minds, and then there's some teams that are, shooting way worse than they would be.
Do you think that's just down to like unluckiness or shots?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I do. Maybe I need to watch a couple more games. Like from those games that you watched, did their shots look difficult? Were they missing difficult shots, or did they get clean looks?
I think they settled too much. I think they settled too much, forced the issue a little bit too much. It's almost like they have a set quota of threes they have to shoot and just shoot them. As I said, Luka and Kristaps, they love their 40, 30 footers, which, on paper isn't a good shot unless you can obviously make it. But those are 2 players that haven't really proved that they can make that consistently. They have shooters on their team. Tim Hardaway Jr. is a good shooter. Brunson's not a bad shooter. Josh Richardson has shot really poorly, but he's got the ability to knock down those shots. Maxi Kleber as well. So they've got the tools there to be able to find those shots. I think they just need to move the ball a bit better and find open looks instead of settling.
I think all their issues are things that you know, they've got the talent. They just need to execute better.
For
They've
sure.
got the coach, you know, that's proven, and that, you know, I don't think these issues will last very long. You know, they just need to work them out within their team. Um, yeah, I don't think these are long-lasting issues at all. I have faith in them. There's no structural issues there that stop them from being the team that they were, that, you know, had the Clippers on their heels.
Right. So I think that's all we have for today's podcast. Let us know what you think about the All-Star game being played and the Kevin Durant protocol situation. We'd love to hear your takes on those. And will you be tuned into the All-Star game? Will you be boycotting the game? Probably not, but who knows? Maybe some of you are
What else are you gonna watch?
yeah, but maybe some people will be taking the moral high ground. Who knows? Thank you, everyone, for watching another episode of the Four Quarter Talk podcast. We'll be back soon. Peace.